Hello, my name's Mel Ashworth and welcome to Coffee with a Councillor. This morning I'm going to be talking to Councillor Tony Probert and we've got a great show ahead of us. Thank you, Tony, for coming in.
My pleasure, Mel. My pleasure.
So, can I just ask you some questions,
surely,
first of all? How long have you been a councillor, Tony?
Well, you're not going to believe this. Only since May of this year.
Just May this year, so you got voted in May?
I got very surprisingly voted in. I pushed the Tories out of their seat. But I've been
Congratulations then.
Yeah, well, my wife didn't think so because I was sure I wouldn't be elected, but there you go, she's enjoying it now.
You never knew.
But I've, as I say, I've been involved politically now for nearly 50 years.
With the Labour Party,
yeah,
okay. Was that 5-0 or 15?
Oh yes, flattery would get you everywhere.
5-0. Okay, so what sort of background are you from?
What, my
political background? Yes.
Well, I'm a young lad brought up in a housing estate up in Bristol. Joined the army at the age of 18. Okay. Served the forces for 6 years. Came out of the army after being married. Joined the police force. Was a copper for a couple of years.
Was this in Bristol?
No, this is up north in Lancashire, yeah, because my wife comes from Lancashire.
Ah, okay.
And then there was a massive redundancy session going around in the early 70s.
Yes.
So we decided that we'd move back to Bristol.
Okay.
And that's when I became very, very interested in the local politics.
In local politics.
I worked at British Aerospace then for 20 odd years.
Right,
took early retirement, so I'm now a retired full-time local politician, if you like.
I see. So now you're based in North Somerset.
Yeah.
You've been elected for the first time.
Yeah. So
what motivated you to stand for local council, Tony?
Well, at the risk of sounding too political, it was in the past, as I said, been very, very involved locally in local politics, and the only way I could get my point of view across was to write letters to the local press.
Sure.
And it got to the stage where they just wouldn't publish them anymore. So I thought the best way to do this then is to stand and try to become elected when, as a councillor, they would be obliged to a certain extent to listen to what I say. And I'm pleased to say they've already published a couple of letters of mine already.
Yes.
So insofar as did I want to be a councillor, I think that any councillor, for whatever ward and for whatever political leaning, should only consider the people they represent.
Yes, and
that's
you
all
represent...
I'm concerned about. I represent the people of Wyvern Ward.
Wyvern Ward.
Yeah.
Which is...
Well, in actual fact, it's just a smaller area of South Ward, which we're in now.
Yes, okay.
So, like I say, I just want to be the voice for them, and I always have felt that way.
Yeah.
Because I think some politicians, quite frankly, are in it for their own pockets.
For their own benefits,
yeah.
Right, okay. Which leads me on to my next question. What do you consider to be a quality that a councillor must have?
Honesty.
Honesty.
Courage.
Yes.
To be able to stand up and say what you think with no concerns whether or not people like what you say. And without sounding too boastful, I think I've got a bit of a reputation for that.
Right, okay. So the people that you represent, Tony, how often do you interact with them? How do you interact with them?
Well, this is, as far as I'm concerned, is a major problem because there doesn't seem to be any sort of neighbourhood community set up there. And all I can do really is to take concerns when I get them. For example, I've just been trying to deal with a local allotment problem.
Yes.
And managed to get our district councillors in South Ward having a look at a problem that was handed to me by somebody from the ward.
So do you hold a surgery or?
No. I must, as I say, I've only been a councillor since May.
Yes.
And I've been very, very concerned about getting to know exactly what my responsibilities are.
Yes.
Yes, I must say, I have considered setting up a...
so that might be something in the future.
Oh yes, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to impinge upon the 3 district councillors in Southall because they hold surgeries regularly.
Okay.
So you would get the Wyvern electorate
Yes.
or also vote for the South Ward, they obviously will talk to them as well. So what I think I would ask is if you get anybody from Wyvern Ward and they've got a problem, please pass it on to me if I can deal with it.
Absolutely, yes.
Because the boundaries for Weston Town Council are only very small, really.
Right.
So we can only be responsible for what happens there, and if 2 foot outside that boundary,
Yes.
and we can't say a word about it.
So you're learning to work as a team
Yes.
with the councillors that are standing in South Ward, are already in position in South Ward.
Yeah. They're
but
my buddies.
Yes, but in the very near future, you'll be happy to get more involved with the
Certainly,
general
yeah,
public
yeah.
of that ward.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
of course, yeah.
It's great to hear that you're outspoken. I've heard a little bird told me you can be quite controversial.
Is that right?
Which is back to not being frightened of people's opinions of you.
Yeah, yeah.
You say that's important as a councillor. Now, I happened to look in the Mercury, and there's a very long letter from you. Now, could you just tell us a little bit of what that's about and why you wrote in?
Well, yes. I mean, as I say, I'm a town councillor, and we hold our meetings in Grove House in
Yes,
Grove Park. And
yes.
strangely enough, we're not responsible for that park. And the Tory-led district council are having to impose across the next 4 years cuts of £47 million, of which 19 million must be cut this year.
19, yes.
19, yeah. And one of the ideas that they're coming up with, and obviously they're going to see what the reactions are, but one of the ideas was let's cut the grant that we give for Grove Park and get rid of all the flower beds and just flatten it all out and put turf on it. And that infuriated me, one, because I believe it could be a massive, massive problem for the people of Weston insofar as it will affect tourists, because if they come and just see that, they say, well, I'm not going there again. Local businesses who rely upon people walking up and down to see, what's her name, Jill, or what's her name, that poor girl that got murdered. And they put,
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
A lot of them go up there to see
Yes.
that and pay their respect.
Yes.
And you'd be surprised during the summer the amount of people that sit there and just enjoy the beautiful sight in front of them, all the flowers and hanging baskets and the lovely pond, etc., and the lovely cenotaph they have there. And to totally take that away from not only local people, but from local business, which is going to be a default.
Yes.
And whatever they collect from local business will be reduced because they won't have customers going past them. So that's why I'm really concerned about it. So as you said, I had a letter published in the Mercury today, and I suggested if they wanted to have a certain amount of loss of funding, the first part should be from their own pay. Because they get paid, if you like, the equivalent of what I would call a salary of £8,000 a year. They also get expenses for travelling here, there and everywhere. And of course, they also get pensions. You know, so I said, well, why not get them to agree to have a cut to them and put that to donate? Because I said, and I make this point, not necessarily from a political view, but simply because I'm a town councillor, one of 31 town councillors who stood for election knowing the implications of becoming a town councillor, which are you don't get paid a penny, you don't get paid expenses unless you travel on behalf of the town council outside of Weston. Okay? And you certainly don't get a pension. So in effect, the town councillors are there just serving because they want to help the people of Weston.
Yes.
Whereas, as I say, unfortunately, I don't believe that is necessarily the case with the district council because they get paid fantastic amounts of money. I mean, if they become one of the executive members, they get another 30 grand on top.
Really?
You know, so that's where the cuts could be.
So you feel really passionate about Grove Park remaining as it is?
Definitely, because
if not better than it is.
Yeah, well, you know, I feel like a bit of an amateur photographer. I love taking photographs, and I took a photograph after one of the meetings there a couple of weeks ago, and I sent it to our tourist board and asked them if they'd like to use it, and they said it was beautiful, so I was really pleased.
Congratulations.
But not only that, I love animals as well, and there's loads and loads.
There's a lot of wildlife in there, yes.
You know? And funnily enough, I always take a little camera with me when I'm going for meetings, and I drew up for one of the meetings 2 weeks ago, and there's 3 squirrels looking at me. And they were tiny little baby ones, obviously just left the nest. And I was just looking at them and I said, come on then, come on. And lo and behold, they actually came up to me.
Fabulous, fabulous.
But, you know,
I mean,
they
the thing is,
haven't...
that's something that you'll never forget.
Oh, yeah.
Now, people in Weston, whether they have mental health issues, whether they're elderly, whether they're mums or dads with young children, that's somewhere you can go, a space you can use.
Definitely, yeah.
And you come away feeling better. I myself have gone in there and just sat there.
It's beautiful.
And just looked at the beauty of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it would be a tragedy, like you say, if that were to be turfed over.
Because in the past I've set up online surveys about things. I'm seriously considering setting another one up and getting people to say how they feel.
Do it. Yeah, and let's see what the results are. Okay, thank you, Tony. The Leisure Dome that has planning permission now, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I have 2 points of view, one of them being for the benefit of people, but also obviously because it's going to affect me and my wife on a personal basis. And I am seriously concerned about the amount of traffic that's going to go up the A371 all the time. You know, it's going to be horrendous.
That's the main road through from Locking to Banwell.
To Banwell, yeah.
Okay.
And they're going to have to really seriously look at that, because they're not only intended building the Leisure Dome there, but they're also going to be building a lot of houses as well. So obviously they need to take into consideration.
So the infrastructure has got to be looked at once and for
all.
all.
But otherwise, insofar as the Leisure Dome, I've got no problem with it. I want more stuff for our kids.
Great.
You know, and that's what but also from a business point of view, it'll bring more people to Weston.
Yes.
And hopefully will reduce the council tax for all the residents.
Right.
So I'm all in favour of that.
So how does that work, Tony? Can you just...
What do you mean by that?
How would the council tax be affected by the Leisure Dome being built?
Well, presumably, because, okay, the company that's running it, or they're building it, obviously they will have a profit, but presumably they'll pay the district council some of that profit for actually running it on district council land allocated to them.
Yes, okay.
So, you know, that's a way of doing it.
It's a plus, yeah, absolutely. Okay, Peer Square or Princess Royal Square? Now, it's a bit of a controversy there. A lot of residents are saying that they didn't know anything at all about that change in name until it was put in place. So what do you think about this?
Well, once again, I've got a couple of feelings about one. Yes, I agree with the people saying they knew nothing about this. And once again, it's a typical politician way of doing things to get their names in the paper, as it were. But also, I'm sorry to say, and I hope I don't offend people, I'm not much in favour of the royal family. I just don't see the point of them at all. So to name a square after a member of the royal family, I'm sorry, no. I'd leave it as it is, or if nothing else, call it something about Weston.
Do you think people will actually refer to it as Princess Royal Square?
Well, sure.
Because now it's in our minds that it's
but not only that, and now it's been called that. Obviously, tourists will look at brochures and the websites and want to find out what it's like. They'll see it, won't they? It'll be called that.
Yes.
So they won't know any different. It'll only be the local people that will know anything different. But once again, the next generation will know no different.
Yes. You know, so. And of course, the next generation are so fundamentally important, aren't they?
Of course they are.
How would you inspire a young person, Tony, to get involved in local politics? What would you say to them?
That's very difficult, because I'm afraid and sorry to say that we now live in a self-centred age. People are self-centred and quite selfish nowadays, and unfortunately that's because of the political system we've been brought up over the past 30 years, since Maggie Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, and what they called globalisation and the free market. And I'm sorry if it sounds like heavy politics, but it's making life very, very difficult now because of the failure of globalisation and the present financial crisis we're in. This government now are cutting back many, many things that will affect youngsters.
So bringing that to local young people, you sound quite disillusioned there. Is there nothing you can say to encourage young people to get involved in politics?
Well, obviously, hopefully they'll watch this and say, that's interesting. And obviously, one of the best ways of communicating with local people is by getting your letters published in the post.
Right.
You know, but once again, that'll just be a narrow band of people that actually go to the letter pages.
Yes.
So really, it's got to be down at a schooling level.
Okay.
And I mean, this grant that they cut from kids, what's the name of the grant?
Sure Start?
Well, no, that's for younger kids still. I mean, that's for young parents.
Yes.
And yeah, in actual fact, yes, I'm really, really annoyed about that.
You're quite passionate about that, aren't you?
Yes, because, I mean, that is the earliest start that you can influence a child. And that makes a lot of difference. But also, I think now kids are beginning to feel that the government aren't interested in them. I mean, this stupendous rise in university fees.
So this is where you can inspire young people from the very earliest age.
Yeah, you've got to start.
The local young people of Weston.
That's right.
Who are saying, well, he cares. He actually cares about us.
Yeah.
That's where it starts, showing that you care,
That's right.
isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been great talking to you, Tony.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you.
My pleasure,
Thank
Mel.
you so much for coming in.
No problem. Thank you.
So that's the end of Coffee with a Counsellor for today, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please email me any of your questions at the address below. And that's me, Mel Ashworth, saying goodbye for now. Goodbye. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.